What's up, everybody? It's Monday. I am Doomsday. Welcome to History 101. Tonight's episode, I am going to let you know that there is a big warning because I'm going to be talking about a very, very big topic that happened back in the 80s. So, let's get started with this. So, the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers and or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only. Matamoros, officially known as Hiroshima Matamoros, a city in the northern Mexican state of Tamaulipas. It's located on the southern bank of the Rio Grande, directly across from the border from Brownsville, Texas, in the United States. Matamoros is the second largest city in the state of Tamaulipas. As of 2016, Matamoros has a population of 520,367. In addition, the Matamoros-Brownsville metropolitan area has population of 1,387,985, making it the fourth largest metropolitan area on the Mexico-U.S. border. Matamoros is the 39th largest city in Mexico and anchors the second largest metropolitan area in Tamaulipas. So let's say hi to people here. Hi a little bit. Ronald Harrison, hello. But there's also a story to this Mexican town in the 1980s, during which was the Satanic Panic era. Spring break on South Padre Island was very popular, and many college students flocked from around to celebrate. Don Black, yo, what's up? Natalie, hello. A satanic cult led by a man and his disciples caused a big panic for folks and spring breakers here in the Rio Grande Valley. Here's the story of Narcosatanist and the murder of Mark Kilroy. So we start off with the first Narcosatanist, which is the leader of the whole show. Hey, what's going on, Otis? This is the leader of the whole show, Aldolfo Jesus Constanzo. Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo, born November 1st, 1962, and died May 6, 1989, was a serial killer and a cult leader in Mexico. His nickname was the Godfather of Matamoros, or El Padrino. Constanzo was born in Miami, Florida. His mother, Delia Aurora Gonzalez del Valle, was a widowed Cuban immigrant. She gave birth to him when she was 15 years old and would only eventually have 3 children in total, each with a different father. She moved to San Juan, Puerto Rico after her first husband died and remarried. While in San Juan, Constanzo was baptized in the Roman Catholic and served as an altar boy. But he was also influenced by his mother's participation in Palo Mayombe. The family returned to Miami in 1972, and his stepfather died soon after, leaving the family with some money. His mother soon remarried, and his new stepfather was involved in the local drug trade and the occult. Both Constanzo and his mother were arrested several times for petty crimes, such as theft, vandalism, and shoplifting. He graduated from high school, but he dropped out of junior college. His mother believed that he had psychic abilities for supposedly predicting the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan in 1981. As a teenager, he befriended a Haitian Palomayombe priest who taught him the skills necessary to be a drug dealer and a con artist, training him for a career profiting from evil. Constanzo visited Mexico City in 1983, supporting himself as a tarot card reader. There, he recruited two younger men, Martin Quintana Rodriguez and Omar Chuy Orrea Ochoa, to be his servants, lovers, and disciples. Constanzo returned to Miami shortly thereafter, but he moved back to Mexico City in mid-1984. Over the next few years, was the leader of a full-fledged cult with drug dealers, musicians, even police officers under his command. The cult, based in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, on the U.S.-Mexico border, sold drugs, held high-price occult ceremonies, and by at least 1987, murdered people for use in human sacrifices. These victims fell along with the cult's rivals in dealing drugs. So, let's see what's in the comments here. Give me a second. I'm clearing some stuff out here. Okay. When an American tourist, 21-year-old Mark James Kilroy, disappeared in Matamoros during spring break of 1989, and there are pictures of Mark Kilroy, if you want to show them, Frank. See, that's Mark Kilroy right there. Mark Kilroy disappeared in Matamoros during spring break of 1989. Local police, facing pressures from Texas authorities, began the search in earnest for him. They discovered Constanzo's cult quite by accident in an unrelated drug investigation. And after arresting some of the members, quickly discovered that they were responsible for Kilroy's murder, whose body had been dismembered and burned. More and more of the cult's members were arrested until on May 6th, they had cornered Constanzo and four of his followers, two whom which his male lovers, in a dilapidated Mexico City apartment. Determined not to go to prison, Constanzo ordered one of the disciples to shoot him and Quintana Rodriguez. They both were dead on the scene when the police finally broke in. So he ordered one of his disciples. Some people say it was the person he was involved with, Sara Aldrete or Sara Aldrete, but that's not known yet. One of Constanzo's most trusted leaders within his cult, Sara Maria Aldrete, was arrested not long after his death. She was sentenced to a total of 68 years in prison for her involvement in the cult and murders. Aldolfo Jesus Constanzo, Miami-born November 1st, 1962, was the son of a teenage Cuban immigrant. He was still an infant when his widowed mother moved to Puerto Rico and acquired a second husband. There, Aldolfo was baptized, we know, by the Catholic Church and was an altar boy. He was 10 years old when the family moved back to Miami, and his stepfather died years later. Aldolfo and his mother was financially well off. By the time neighbors in Little Havana began to notice something odd about Aurora Constanzo and her son, some said the woman was a witch, and those who angered her were likely discovered to discover headless goats or chickens on their doorsteps in the morning. Adolfo's mother had introduced him to Santeria cult around the age of 9, with side trips from Puerto Rico to Haiti for instructions in voodoo. But there were still more secrets to be learned, and in 1976 he was apprenticed to a practitioner of Palo Mayombe. His occult godfather was already rich from working the local drug dealers and imparted with a philosophy that would follow Aldolfo to his grave. Let the non-believers kill themselves with drugs. We will profit from their foolishness. Around the same time, Constanzo's mother recalled that her oldest son began displaying psychic powers, scanning the future to predict such events as 1981's shooting of President Ronald Reagan. Be that as it may, Adolfo had problems foretelling his own future, including two 1981 arrests for shoplifting, one involving the theft of a chainsaw. On the side, he had also begun to display bisexual inclinations with a strong preference for male lovers. A modeling assignment took the handsome young sorcerer to Mexico City in 1983, and he spent his free time telling fortunes with tarot cards in the city's infamous Zona Rosa. And if you all haven't seen who Constanzo is, Frank, put that up on there so people can see. That's Adolfo Constanzo right there. So before returning to Miami, Adolfo collected his first Mexican disciples, including Martin Quintana, homosexual psychic George Montes, and Omar Orrea. Obsessed with the occult from age 15, in short order, Constanzo seduced both a young Latino, Rodriguez and Orrea, claiming one as his man and the other as his woman. Depending on Adolfo's romantic whim, in mid-1984, Constanzo moved to Mexico City full-time, seeking what his mother called new horizons. He shared quarters with Quintana and Orrea in a strange menage a trois, collecting other followers as his magic reputation spread throughout the city. It was said that Constanzo could read the future, and he also offered limpias, or ritual cleanings, for those who felt that they had been cursed by the enemy. Of course, it all cost money, and Constanzo's journals, recovered after his death, document 31 regular customers, some paying up to $4,500 for a single ceremony. Adolfo established a menu for sacrificial beasts: roosters going for $6 a head, goats for $30, boa constrictors at $450, adult zebras for $1,100, and African lion cubs listed at $3,100 each. True to the teachings of his Florida mentors, Constanzo went out of his way to charm wealthy drug dealers, helping them schedule shipments and meetings on the basis of his predictions. For a price, he offered magic that would only make dealers and their hitmen invisible to police, bulletproof against their enemies. So, in the comments here, it says, back the truck up, shoplifting with the chainsaw. Yeah, no, he was shoplifting for a chainsaw. He was robbing chainsaws. That's what Constanzo was doing. All right, where was I? Okay. It was all nonsense, of course, but smugglers drawn from Mexican peasant stocks with backgrounds in brujeria were strongly inclined to believe. And according to Constanzo's ledgers, one dealer in Mexico City paid him $40,000 for a magical service rendered over 3 years of time. At those rates, the customers demanded a show, and Constanzo recognized the folly of disappointing men who carried Uzi submachine guns in their armor-plated limousines. Strong medicine required first-rate ingredients, and Adolfo was rolling by mid-1985, when he and 3 of his disciples raided a Mexico City graveyard for human bones to start his own naganga, which is a cauldron. The traditional cauldron of blood employed by practitioners of Palo Mayombe. The rituals and air mysteries surrounding Constanzos were powerful enough to lure across a cross-section of Mexican society.
The bodies of chaos are coming for you. The bodies of chaos are coming for you.
Good morning!
With this clique of disciples, including a physician, a real estate speculator, fashion models, and several transvestite nightclub performers. At first glance, the most particular aspect of Constanzo's new career was the appeal he seemed to have for ranking law enforcement officers. So he hired a lot of law enforcement officers to join him. At least four members of the Federal Judicial Police, the FJP, joined Constanzo's cult in Mexico City. One of them, Salvador Garcia, was a commander in charge of the narcotics investigations. Another, Florentino Ventura, retired from the federales to lead the Mexican branch of Interpol. In a country where bribery or mordida permeates all levels of law enforcement, and federal officers sometimes serves as a trigger man for drug smugglers. Corruption is not usual, but devotion of Constanzo's followers ran deeper than cash on his line. In or out of uniform, they worshipped Adolfo as a minor god in his own right, their living conduit to the spirit world. See, Otis Dredd says, he had a good cult. Well, yeah, he did until he messed it up. for condominiums in Mexico City, buying himself a fleet of luxury cars that included an 80,000 Mercedes-Benz. When not working magic for the Calzadas or other clients, Aldolfo staged scams of his own, once posing as a DEA agent to rip off a coke dealer in Guadalajara, selling the stash through his police contacts for a cool $100,000. At some point in his odyssey from juvenile psychic to high society witch, Constanzo began to feed his Naganga with the offerings of human sacrifice. No final tally for his victims is available, but 23 ritual murders are well documented, and Mexican authorities point to the rash of unsolved mutilations, slayings around Mexico City and elsewhere, suggesting that Constanzo's known victims may only represent the tip of the malignant iceberg. In any case, his willingness to torture and kill total strangers, along with
This is Mikey from Out of the Ordinary, and you're watching PBDC TV.
First thing in the morning, when I'm listening to music and getting a little bit of time for some creepy research, I'm always representing with my PBDC merch. What a better way to have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Don't forget to check out our other cool merch at rootsbleedred.com. That's rootsbleedred.com.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, and when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.
Selling the stash through his police contacts for a cool $100,000. At some point in his odyssey from juvenile psychic to high society witch, Constanzo began to feed his Naganga with the offerings of human sacrifice. No final tally for his victims is available, but 23 ritual murders are well documented. And Mexican authorities point to the rash of unsolved mutilations, slayings around Mexico City and elsewhere, suggesting that Constanzo's known victims may only represent the tip of the malignant iceberg. In any case, his willingness to torture and kill total strangers, along with close friends, duly impressed the ruthless drug dealers who remained in his foremost clients. In the course of a year's association, Constanzo came to believe that his magical powers alone were responsible for the Calzadas family's continued success and survival. In April 1987, he demanded a full partnership in the syndicate and was currently refused, which the Calzadas should have never done that, which I'm going to explain right now. Constanzo seemed to take rejection in stride, but his devious mind was working overtime plotting revenge. On April 30th, Guillermo Calzada and 6 members of his household vanished under mysterious circumstances. They were reported missing on May 1st. Police noting melted candles and other evidences of strange religious ceremony at the Calzada's office. 6 more days elapsed before officers began fishing mutilated remains from the Zumpango River. 7 corpses were recovered in the course of a week, all bearing marks of sadistic torture, fingers, toes, and ears removed, hearts and organs excised, parts of the spine ripped from one body to others missing their brains. The vanished parts, as it turned out, had gone to feed Constanzo's cauldron of blood, or the Naganga. Building up his strength for greater conquest yet to come, in July 1987, Salvador Garcia introduced Constanzo to another drug-running family. And you see, that's all the evidence right there. And Don Black says, dang, a cult of dreads, demigod only requires bacon and llama. Yeah, so anyways, we're getting into this. He was introduced to Elio and Ovidio Hernandez, which are the Hernandez family. And them too, they're a side of a bunch of murderers also. At the end of the month in Matamoros, Constanzo had also met 22-year-old Sara Aldrete, a Mexican national with a resident alien status in the United States, where she attended college in Brownsville. Brownsville is not too far from where I live. I live maybe about a good 20 miles, 30 miles away from Brownsville. And let me tell you, you go to Brownsville, it's freaking shady as hell there. But anyways, back to where I was. She attended college in Brownsville, Texas. Aldolfo charmed Sara with his line of patter, nothing with arc significance, that her birthday is September 6th and was the same as his mother. So Constanzo tried wooing her by saying, oh, I know your birthday, September the 6th, blah, blah, blah. That's Sara Aldrete. And, well, he just wooed her by, knowing the basics. So Sara was dating a Brownsville drug smuggler by the name of Gilberto Sosa at the time, but she soon wound up in Constanzo's bed. See, they did actually sleep together. Aldolfo, scuttling the old relationship with the anonymous call to Sosa, revealing that about Sara's infidelity. With nowhere else to turn, Sara plunged full tilt into Constanzo's world, emerging as La Madrina, godmother or head witch of his cult, adding her own twist to torture of sacrificial victims. Constanzo's rituals became more elaborate and sadistic after he moved his headquarters to a plot of desert called Rancho Santa Elena. And Liz says, if you know someone came up to me and was like, hey, I know your birthday, I would probably go all, that's my that's my purse. I don't know you. Wow. Have you seen the movie? Are you talking about El Padrino or something? I don't recall watching that. I really don't, but I heard it was good. I heard it was super fucking scary. Constanzo's rituals became more elaborate and sadistic after he moved to headquarters. Okay, we read about Santa Elena. 20 miles away from Matamoros, there on May 28, 1988, drug dealer Hector de la Fuente and farmer Moises Castillo were executed by gunfire. But the sacrifice was a disappointment to Constanzo. Back in Mexico City, he directed his drones to dismember a transvestite by the name of Ramon Esquivel and dump his grisly remains on the public street corner. His luck was holding, and Constanzo narrowly escaped when Houston police raided a drug house in June of 1988. So here's where he goes fumbling. Here's where he goes fumbling a lot now, and he starts getting a little bit sloppy on what he does, which is what leads to all the happenings. So, it says his luck was holding, and Constanzo narrowly escaped Houston police raided a drug house in 1980, seizing numerous items of occult paraphernalia and the city's largest ever shipment of cocaine. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I think I know somebody that might have benefited from that. But that's another story. On August 12th, Ovidio Hernandez and his 2-year-old son were kidnapped by rival narcotics dealers, the family turning to Constanzo for help because he was the witch, the head witch and whatever. That night, another human sacrifice was staged at Rancho Santa Elena, and the hostages were released unharmed on August 13th. Adolfo claiming full credit for their safe return, his star was rising, and Constanzo barely noticed when Florentino Ventura committed suicide in Mexico City on September 17th, taking his wife and a friend with him in the same burst of gunfire. In November of 1988, Constanzo sacrificed disciple Jorge Gomez, accused of snorting cocaine in direct violation of El Padrino's ban on drug use. So, Constanzo's cult had one rule: don't ever do drugs. Which, don't do it at all. But the thing is that he still was a bad guy. He still did his bullshit. So, anyways, he killed Ovidio. Who did he kill? My bad. He killed Jorge Gomez. A month later, Adolfo's ties with the Hernandez family were cemented with the initiation of Ovidio Hernandez as the full-fledged cultist. Complete with ritual bloodletting and prayers to the Naganga, human sacrifice can also have its practical side. As when competing smuggler Ezequiel Luna was tortured to death at Rancho Santa Elena on February 14th of 1989, Two dealers, Ruben Garza and Ernesto Diaz, wandered into the ceremony uninvited and promptly wound up on the menu. So these guys did not take too kindly to strangers. So if you were a stranger and you showed up to one of their ceremonies, you best better pray to God that you don't end up in that cauldron, the Naganga. So conversely, Adolfo sometimes demanded sacrifice on the spur of the moment without rhyme or reason. When he called for fresh meat on February 25th, Ovidio Hernandez gladly joined the hunting party, picking off his own 14-year-old cousin, Jose Garcia, in the heat of the moment. So not only were they getting strangers, they were getting family members of their own, cousins, and stuff. Like, god dang. So on March 13th, 1989, Constanzo sacrificed yet another victim at the ranch, gravely disappointed when his prey did not scream or plead for mercy in the approved style. Jeez, man, like you even had to please him while he was killing you. What the hell? So disgruntled, he ordered an angelo for the next ritual, which is where we're going to get into now about what I was talking about. So he ordered an angelo for his ritual, and his minions fanned out with their noses to the ground, abducting 21-year-old Mark Kilroy outside a Matamoros saloon. The sacrifice went well enough, followed 2 weeks later by the butchery of Sara Aldrete's old boyfriend, Gilberto Sosa. But Kilroy's disappearance marked the beginning of the end for Constanzo's homicidal family. A popular pre-med student from Texas, Mark Kilroy was not some peasant, transvestite, or small-time pusher who could disappear without a trace or an investigation into his fate. With family members and Texas politicians turning up the heat, the search for Kilroy rapidly assumed the trapping of an international incident. But it would be Constanzo's own disciples who destroyed him in the end. By late March 1989, Mexican authorities were busy with one of their periodic anti-drug campaigns, erecting roadblocks on a whim and sweeping the border districts for unwary smugglers. On April 1st, Victor Salceda, an ex-cop turned gangster, was sacrificed at the ranch, and the spirit message Constanzo received was optimistic enough for his troops to move a half ton of marijuana, my bad, I didn't mean to say pound, across the border 7 nights later. And then the magic started to unravel. So after all of that stuff, they thought they were these big, invisible, powerful people. And yeah, that was the start of their demise. On April 9th, returning from Brownsville, Texas, meeting with Constanzo, cultist Sefrain Hernandez drove past a police roadblock without stopping. Ignoring the cars that set off in hot pursuit, Hernandez believed El Padrino's line about invisibility, and he seemed surprised when officers trailed him to his destination in Matamoros. Even so, the smuggler was arrogant, inviting police to shoot him, since the bullets would merely bounce off of him. Can you imagine? Just sitting there, hey, shoot me. They ain't going to do nothing to me. That ain't doing nothing. So they arrested him instead, along with cult member David Martinez, and drove the pair back to Rancho Santa Elena, where the preliminary search turned up marijuana and firearms. Disciples Elio Hernandez and Sergio Martinez stumbled into the net while police were on hand, and all 4 prisoners were interrogated through the evening. They revealed their tales of black magic, torture, and human sacrifices as perverse as perverse kind of pride. Ugh. So let's see here. Oh shit. I guess Dom's in here. Hey Dom, if you're in here. Dom Black says hi, cuz. Okay. So next morning, police returned to the ranch in force, discovering the malodorous shed where Constanzo kept his naganga, brimming with blood and spiders, scorpions, and dead black cat, a turtle shell, bones, deer antlers, and a human brain. Which that human brain ended up becoming. That human brain was actually Mark Kilroy's brain. So that's the first thing they found was the human brains. Captive cult members directed searchers to Constanzo's private cemetery. An excavation began, revealing 15 mutilated corpses by April 16th. And I got the picture there. That's those are where the bodies were found. And if you look up on the internet, you can find more pictures of the crime, more graphic pictures of it. If you look it up on the internet, Google it. So, in addition to Mark Kilroy and other victims already named, the body count included 2 renegade federal narcotics officers, Joaquin Manzo and Miguel Garcia, along with 3 men who were never identified. The hunt for Constanzo was on, and police raided his luxury home in Astizapan, outside of Mexico City on April 17th, discovering stockpiles of gay pornography. Damn. And a hidden ritual chamber. The discoveries at Rancho Santa Elena made international headlines, and sightings of Constanzo were reported as far away as Chicago. So he was moving from place to place. This guy knew he was already done for. So, yeah, I remember he was Iron Man, y'all. So he already knew his days were numbered. So might as well just go on the run. So, where was I here? Okay. But in fact, he had already returned to Mexico City, hiding out in a small apartment with Sara Aldrete and 3 other disciples. On May 2nd, to save herself, Sara tossed a note out of the window. It read, "Please call the judicial police and tell them that in this building are those that they are seeking. Give them the address, 4th floor. Tell them that the woman is being held hostage. I beg for this because what I want most is to talk, or they're going to kill the girl." So a part of them being captive, being stuck in that apartment building, they kidnapped the little girl, and already Aldrete was having second thoughts about being with them and everything like that. So she started ratting them out. That's why she threw that paper out the window. A passerby found the note and kept it to himself, thinking that it was someone's lame attempt at humor. On May 6th, neighbors called the police to complain of a loud, vulgar argument in Constanzo's apartment. Some say accompanied by gunshots. As a patrolman arrived on the scene, Constanzo opened fire with an Uzi, touching off a 45-minute battle in which miraculously 1 policeman was wounded. So he initially thought that the cops were coming for him because of what he did to Kilroy and all that. But in fact, that cop was just going in for a noise complaint because of the gunshot. That's all he was going in. It had nothing to do with the murders. When Constanzo realized that escape was impossible, he handed his weapon to cultist Alvaro de Leon. Okay, so he handed it to Alvaro, a professional hitman named El Doobie, the Doobie. Yeah, Liz, noise complaint gone wrong. Seriously. Lucy in the sky with diamonds. So a hitman named El Dubi with bizarre new orders. As El Dubi recalls the scene, he told me to kill him and Martin Quintana. I told him I couldn't do it, but he hit me in the face, threatened me that everything would go bad for me in hell. Then he hugged Martin and he just stood in front of them and shot them with the machine gun. Constanzo and Quintana were dead when police stormed the apartment, arresting El Dubi and Sara Aldrete in the aftermath of the raid. 14 cultists were indicted on various charges, including multiple murder, weapons and narcotics violations, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. In August 1990, El Dubi was convicted of killing Constanzo and Quintana, drawing a 30-year prison term. Cultist Juan Fragosa and Jorge Montes were both convicted in the Ramon Esquivel murder and sentenced to 35 years each. Omar Orrea, convicted in the same case, died of AIDS before he could be sentenced. Sara Aldrete was acquitted of Constanzo's murder, but sentenced to a 6-year term on a conviction of criminal association. She was nearing the end of that sentence in 1994 when her long-delayed trial on multiple murder charges bought her another conviction and a 60-year prison term. Police in Mexico are still uncertain of Constanzo's final body count. Some officers trying to clear every ritualistic murder on the books by posthumously blaming Constanzo. On the other hand, in June 1989, Martin Quintana's sister told police that Adolfo's first madrina was still at large. So Sara Aldrete wasn't the first madrina. She wasn't the first witch. There was another one. Okay, where did I leave off of? Okay. First madrina. Practicing her blood magic in Guadalajara and from jail before he died, Omar Orrea said, I don't think that the religion will end with us because it has a lot of people in it. They have found a temple in Monterrey that isn't even related to us, and it will continue. It wasn't me. So these are possible accomplices of Constanzo. Abel Lima, or El Sodomita de Iztapalapa, suspected for kidnapping in the mid-90s. Ruben Estrada, or Patitas Cortas, which means chop feet. Christian Campos, El Panzas, or the stomachs. Emmanuel Romero, El Trompas, or the trumpet. That's what I've known it as, the trumpet. Saúl Sánchez, El Macaco, and Ricardo Peña, El Cepillín. You can look all of those guys up on Google, and you'll find out who they are. But we're gonna go into who Sara Aldrete is now. We just talked about Constanzo. Now we're gonna talk about La Madrina. So Sara Aldrete, born September 6, 1964 in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, Mexico, is a multiple murderer known as La Madrina. She attended high school in Brownsville, Texas, while still living south of the border. And she gained resident alien status so she could attend Texas Southmost College. She was known amongst her peers as a good student. She was 6'1" tall and studied physical education, preparing to transfer to a university to earn her physical education teaching certification. That's when Aldolfo Constanzo, Cuban-American fortune teller and religious cult leader, introduced her to witchcraft and dark magic. He gave her nickname La Madrina, Spanish for the godmother, and initiated her into his cult, which is a conglomeration of Santeria, Aztec warrior ritual, and Palo Mayombe. Complete with blood sacrifices, Constanzo sexually assaulted and killed drug dealers and used their body parts for religious sacrifice ceremonies in an old warehouse near Matamoros. Many of his victims' body parts were cooked in large pots called the naganga, which we already saw that. Constanzo made Sara Aldrete second in command of his cult and directed her to supervise his followers while he was out shipping marijuana over the borders in the U.S. In 1989, killings grew more frequent and gained attention with affluent American tourist Mark Kilroy, a University of Texas student on spring break, was abducted. Constanzo Aldrete and the rest of the cult went on the run when detectives discovered their shrine. They found human hair, brains, teeth, and skulls at the site of the murder. Eventually, police found their hideout in Mexico City on May 6, 1989. After a shootout, Constanzo and one of his accomplices were shot and killed by another member of the cult, apparently at Constanzo's behest. So Natalie says Santeria is interesting stuff for sure. It is, but oh my God, it's freaking scary. I've read books on Santeria, and yeah, I would not want to do such things as what happens there, because a lot of it has to do with black magic in there. I'm sure there's some good, but most people use it for black magic. So, May 11th, 1989. Here's from the news points. The news points of view. Here's from what the Los Angeles Times says. May 11th, 1989. Mexico City. Alleged satanic cult witch Sara Aldrete Villarreal has confessed to the involvement in some of the ritual slayings of 15 people near the U.S. and also exhibits sign of having split personalities, U.S. law enforcement officials said Wednesday. In private, Aldrete loses the charming aspect she exhibits when she faces television cameras and seems to revert to another self, talking in details about the cult's rituals, officials said. So this chick had multiple personalities. Like 1 minute when she's on camera, she's one person, and then another, she's another. I would say that she has 3 personalities. A source at the Mexico City Attorney General's office, who insisted on anonymity, said in an interview, one personality comes out, she faces the camera and denies any involvement in the human slayings. Another emerges when she talks to police, and the third comes out when she talks to herself, the source said. The Houston Chronicle quoted U.S. Customs Agent Oran Neck as saying that Aldrete has confessed to conspiracy and involvement in the killings. Neck, who spent several days in Mexico City assisting investigators, told the paper that Sara had kind of lost touch with reality. Her dual personality is coming up pretty strong right now. When you talk to her without TV cameras, she's pretty truthful. She's giving a lot of data with great detail to investigators. It seems like when the cameras come on, she kind of reverts back to this nice, young, clean cut from Texas Southmost College, Neck said. When the cameras were there, she was real nice. When she was with us, she was the same old bitch, Lieutenant George Gavito, a U.S. investigator who accompanied Neck to Mexico City, said. Aldrete, 24, and 5 other cult members were arrested in a Mexico apartment hideout Saturday afternoon after a shootout with police. Another thing on the tabloid, it said leader in cult slaying ordered own death. Two companions say. So there were a couple of stories, and this one's about the news. The New York Times saying about Constanzo, May 8th, 1989. Leader of a drug smuggling cult that believed to have killed 15 people buried their bodies along the United States-Mexican border, ordered his own killing when the police closed in on him. Two of his companions said today. Aldolfo de Jesus Constanzo was shot to death Saturday after the police appeared outside the Mexico City apartment building, where he was staying with Sara Aldrete and 5 other suspected cult members. Miss Aldrete, a 24-year-old former honor student at Texas Southmost College, said Mr. Constanzo ordered Alvaro de Leon Vasquez to kill him, and his right-hand man, Martin Quintana Rodriguez. Miss Aldrete, who has been described as the witch of the cult, Mr. de Leon Valdez, and 3 others arrested after the shootout were presented to journalists today at the office of Mexico City Attorney General. They stood behind a 3 by 6 foot table bearing confiscated cult items, black clothing, and went crazy, according to them. Mr. de Leon Valdez said that he shot Mr. Constanzo and Mr. Quintana with a machine gun after Mr. Constanzo ordered him to do and hit him when he resisted. He went crazy, supposedly, he said. When policemen came, Mr. de Leon Valdez said of Mr. Constanzo, he grabbed a bundle of money, threw it, and began shooting out the window. Mr. de Leon Valdez said. He said everything was lost. He recalled Mr. Constanzo saying, no one is going to have this money. Now, giving her recollection of the events, Miss Aldrete said, Mr. Constanzo ordered Mr. de Leon Valdez to kill him because it was the end and he wanted to die with Martin. So, yeah. He did pretty much go crazy after he knew his days were numbered. Miss Aldrete said that she did not see the shooting nor the killing of the 15 people whose bodies were found on the Santa Elena Ranch outside of Matamoros along the border in April. She said she did not know about those killings until she saw the news of them on television. And how does Otis say it? I call bullshit. I know that was complete utter bullshit. He was just trying to get out of shit. Mr. Constanzo and Miss Aldrete are believed to have directed human sacrifices, mutilations, and other rituals involving human organs in the belief that the rites would protect their drug smuggling ring. Mr. de Leon Valdez, 22, said he took part in the killings of Mark Kilroy and a Texas college student and some of the other on the ranch. But he and Miss Aldrete indicated that Mr. Constanzo did most of the killings on the ranch. When asked who killed Mr. Kilroy, Miss Aldrete said, Adolfo. Yeah, what a snitch. Show prep. Very interesting case, says Otis B. Dreads. Gotta hop off to do some show. Okay. See you later, Otis. So, appearing calm, Miss Aldrete said she was sorry about the death of Mr. Kilroy and others. If I had known it was like this, I wouldn't have been in it. She said of the cult. Okay, so the question is, why did she even, if she says, if I hadn't known it was like this, I wouldn't have been in it, she said. I thought, didn't she already know what she was getting into when they started killing people? Like, how do you not know that crap? Like, I definitely would, I'd definitely be like, you know what, screw this, I'm bouncing out. I ain't going to be in this bullshit. So that's a bunch of BS that, you know, she didn't know anything about it. She knew. Mr. Constanzo and Miss Aldrete, missing since first, 12 bodies were uncovered on the ranch on April 11th. Were among the 11 people indicted in the United States. Miss Aldrete, Mr. de Leon Valdez, and others were being held in Mexico on charges including homicide, criminal association, wounding a police agent, and damaged property. An Assistant Attorney General Abraham Polo Uscanga said the bodies of Mr. Constanzo and Mr. Quintana were found slumped inside a closet in the apartment. Their shirts were smeared with blood. Relief expressed in the U.S. Now, if you want to look for that picture of Quintana and Constanzo in the closet, bloodied up, look it up on Google. It's there. I have the picture, but I just can't show it. So, all right, guys. That concludes my broadcast day for today. Don't forget to go follow Roots Bleed Red. Don't forget to follow Psychomantium 13, Psycho Bunny Death Cult. Don't forget to follow Psychic Cindy. Who else?